The cantina smelled like burnt metal and strange chemicals. Dozens of alien species filled the space, drinking liquids that would kill most humans in seconds. The air was thick with smoke from substances Kang Daeho didn't want to identify. He sat in the corner, watching the bounty board flicker with new contracts. Around him, conversations stopped. A massive creature with 4 arms and scales like black diamonds walked to the center of the room. This was Vorath, a crime lord who controlled 3 solar systems. When Vorath spoke, even the bravest hunters listened. "I have a contract," Vorath announced, his voice like grinding stone. 1 million credits. The target is Park Ji-won, leader of the Human Rebellion. She hides in the Fortress Moon, protected by 200 soldiers and defense systems that have never been breached. The room stayed silent. Every hunter there knew the Fortress Moon. It was a death trap. Advanced scanners, automated weapons, elite guards from a dozen warrior species. Nobody had ever gotten in and out alive. "The target must be taken alive," Vorath continued. "Dead, she becomes a martyr. Alive, she can be broken. Who will take this contract?" Nobody moved. Daeho watched as veteran hunters looked away, suddenly interested in their drinks. These were beings who had faced down armies, who had survived battles that would terrify most soldiers. But even they knew a suicide mission when they saw one. Daeho stood up and walked to the board. He was average height for a human, maybe 5 feet 10 inches. No visible weapons except a simple pistol on his hip. No armor, just a worn jacket and dark pants. He pressed his hand against the board scanner, accepting the contract. The cantina erupted in laughter. "A human!" someone shouted. "The soft-skin takes the impossible contract. Does it even know what it just agreed to?" Another voice called out. Daeho ignored them. He'd heard it all before. Humans were a joke in the galaxy. They came from Earth, a planet nobody cared about until 50 years ago, when humans finally figured out how to travel faster than light. Even then, they were late to the party. Every other species had been traveling the stars for thousands of years. Humans were weak compared to other species. They had no natural armor like the Krellians, no venom like the Scythians, no telepathy like the Vex. They couldn't survive in extreme temperatures. Their bones broke easily. They needed oxygen to breathe, water to drink, and they died if they didn't eat for just a few weeks. Vorath looked at Daeho with something like amusement. "You are either very brave or very stupid, human. What is your name?" "Kandeho," he replied simply. "Well, Kandeho, I give you 1 week. If you succeed, you will be rich. If you fail, you will be dead. Either way, I am entertained." Daeho left the cantina without another word. Behind him, the laughter continued. Let them laugh. He'd heard it before. Right before he collected bounties that others said were impossible, the docking bay was darker than the cantina. Ships of every size and shape filled the massive space, hanging from moorings or resting on landing pads. Daeho walked toward his ship, a small vessel that looked more like a cargo hauler than a hunter's craft. It was perfect for his needs. 3 figures stepped out of the shadows. They were Krellians, tall and covered in natural armor that could stop most bullets. Their leader had a scar across his face and carried a plasma rifle. "Give us your credits, human," the scarred one said. "Make this easy." "No," Daeho said. The Krellian laughed. "You think you can fight us? You're unarmed and soft. We will break you in seconds." "Probably," Daeho agreed. "But you'll try to break me the way you break other Krellians. That's your mistake." The scarred one moved fast, faster than most humans could react. His armored fist swung toward Daeho's head with enough force to crack a skull. But Daeho wasn't there. He'd already moved. Reading the attack from the slight shift in the Krellian's weight, Daeho didn't try to punch the armor. Instead, he kicked the side of the Krellian's knee, targeting the joint where the armor plates met. The leg bent wrong. The Krellian stumbled. Before he could recover, Daeho had his pistol out and pressed against the soft spot under the Krellian's jaw. "Your armor is good," Daeho said quietly. "But every species has weak points. I've studied your biology. I know where you're vulnerable." The other two Krellians raised their weapons, but their leader raised a hand to stop them. He'd felt how precisely Deho had found that weak spot. One wrong move, and the pistol would fire directly into his brain. "Let us go," the scarred one said. "We meant no disrespect." Deho stepped back. The three Krellians retreated quickly, the leader limping. Deho watched them go, then holstered his pistol. His hands were shaking slightly. They always did after a fight. Fear was useful. It kept him sharp. He boarded his ship and sealed the airlock. The interior was clean but cluttered with equipment. Computers lined one wall, weapons racks on another. A small sleeping area barely big enough for one person. This ship had been his home for 5 years. Deho sat at the main console and pulled up everything he could find about Park Ji-won. She was 32 years old, born on one of the human colony worlds. Brilliant strategist. Natural leader. She'd started the rebellion after the Commerce Guild had shut down life support to a colony that couldn't pay its debts. 3,000 humans died, including her parents. The galaxy didn't care. 3,000 humans were nothing compared to the trillions of beings spread across thousands of worlds. But Ji-won cared. She made people listen by hitting the guild where it hurt, disrupting trade routes and freeing contract laborers who were basically slaves. Deho understood her. He'd lost people too. His wife and daughter had been on a colony ship that the guild refused to repair because the humans couldn't afford the cost. The ship's engine failed. Everyone died. That was 7 years ago. He pushed the memory away. Emotions were dangerous in his line of work. He focused on the fortress moon, studying its defenses, guard rotations, supply schedules. Other hunters would look at this information and see an impossible fortress. Deho saw patterns, weaknesses, opportunities. The galaxy thought humans were weak because they measured strength in claws and armor and natural weapons. They didn't understand that human strength came from something else entirely. Humans were persistent. They learned. They adapted. They found solutions that other species never considered. Because those solutions seemed beneath them, Deho had been hunting bounties for 5 years. He'd captured targets that others said were impossible. Not because he was stronger or faster, but because he thought differently. He prepared obsessively. He studied his targets like a scientist. He used every advantage, no matter how small. The other hunters called him lucky. Let them think that. It was better than them knowing the truth. His ship's engines hummed to life. The docking clamps released. As he guided the vessel out of the station, Deho looked at Ji-won's file one more time. She was fighting for something she believed in. He respected that. But respect wouldn't stop him from doing his job. He needed that 1,000,000 credits. There were human colonies struggling to survive, and nobody else was going to help them. If he had to capture one rebel to save thousands of others, he would do it. The ship jumped to light speed, heading toward the fortress moon. In 7 days, everyone would know whether the human bounty hunter was as good as his reputation claimed. Deho spent 3 days doing nothing but research. His ship drifted in deep space, far from any trade routes. While he studied everything about the fortress moon, most hunters would have rushed in, relying on firepower and luck. That's why most hunters eventually died. The fortress moon orbited a gas giant in an uninhabited system, perfect for hiding. The base itself was built into the moon's surface, with only a few structures visible from orbit. Most of the facility was underground, carved out of solid rock over decades. Security was impressive. Orbital scanners that could detect a ship from millions of miles away. Point defense weapons that could shoot down incoming missiles. Shields strong enough to withstand a direct assault from a small fleet. And inside, 200 guards from various warrior species who took their jobs seriously. Park Ji-won had chosen well. This place was a nightmare to attack, but Deho wasn't planning to attack. He pulled up personnel files, stolen from a guild database months ago for a different job. The fortress needed supplies, which meant ships came and went regularly. Those ships had crews. Those crews had identities. And identities could be stolen. One supply ship was scheduled to arrive in 2 days. It was operated by a species called the Vexor. who wore full environmental suits. Because they breathed methane instead of oxygen, perfect, nobody would see his face. Deho studied the Vexer language, physiology, and customs. He watched videos of how they moved, how they gestured, how they interacted with other species. After 10 hours, he could mimic them well enough to pass a casual inspection. Then he studied the fortress itself. Guard rotations changed every 8 hours. During shift changes, there was a 15-minute window when coverage was weakest. The guards were professionals, but they were comfortable. The fortress had never been attacked. Complacency was Deho's ally. He didn't sleep much. 2 hours each night split into 30-minute segments. Most species needed 6 to 8 hours of continuous sleep. Humans could survive on much less if they had to. It wasn't healthy, but Deho had learned to push his body beyond normal limits. On the third day, he intercepted the Vexer supply ship. It was easy. The crew didn't expect trouble in deep space. Deho disabled their engines with an electromagnetic pulse, boarded them, and locked them in their own cargo bay. He didn't hurt them. They were just workers doing a job. He put on one of their environmental suits. It smelled terrible inside, like rotten eggs and chemicals. The suit's computer translated his words into the Vexer language. The helmet completely hid his face. When he arrived at the fortress moon, the guards barely looked at him. He was expected. He had the right codes. He looked like a Vexer doing a routine delivery. They waved him through. Inside the fortress, Deho moved carefully. He delivered the supplies as expected, pushing cargo containers through the corridors. Guards passed him without a second glance. He was invisible, just another worker in an environmental suit, but while he delivered supplies, he was also mapping the base. Every corridor, every security camera, every guard post. His suit's computer recorded everything. By the end of his shift, he had a complete layout of the facility. He also planted small devices in key locations. They weren't bombs or weapons. They were jammers designed to disrupt communications for exactly 90 seconds when activated. 90 seconds would be enough. The hard part was finding Park Ji-won. She wasn't in any of the common areas. Her location was classified, known only to the base commander and a few trusted guards. Deho would have to get that information the old-fashioned way. He waited until night cycle, when most of the base was asleep. Then he made his way to the security office. 2 guards stood outside, both armed with plasma rifles. They were Krellians, the same species that had tried to rob him at the station. Deho couldn't fight them both. Not directly. So he didn't try. Instead, he triggered a minor alarm 3 corridors away. Nothing serious, just a pressure door malfunction. 1 guard went to investigate, following protocol. That left 1 guard at the door. Deho approached from behind, moving silently. Humans weren't naturally quiet, but they could learn to be. He'd spent months training himself to walk without making sound, controlling his breathing, minimizing his presence. The guard never heard him. Deho used a tranquilizer designed specifically for Krellian biology, injected through a weak point in the armor near the spine. The guard dropped without a sound. Inside the security office, Deho accessed the computers. He had maybe 3 minutes before someone noticed the guard was down. He found Jaewon's location quickly. She was in a command center deep underground, protected by the fortress's best defenses. He also found something else. Guard schedules, security protocols, and a name, Kreln, the security chief. A legendary warrior who had fought in 100 battles across a dozen worlds. Kreln was personally responsible for protecting Jaewon. Deho downloaded everything to a data chip and left, before the other guard returned. By the time they found their unconscious colleague, Deho was back in his supply ship, preparing to leave, but leaving meant passing through the orbital checkpoint. And this time, they were suspicious. The unconscious guard had been discovered. The base was on alert. Every ship was being thoroughly inspected. Deho made a decision. He couldn't wait. He activated his ship's engines and blasted away from the docking port before they could lock him down. Alarms screamed. Defense weapons swiveled toward him. This was the part where his human reflexes mattered. Alien pilots were good, but they relied heavily on computer assistance. They let their ships AI do most of the flying. Humans couldn't afford that luxury. They had to learn to pilot manually because their early ships didn't have sophisticated AI. Deho threw his ship into a spin, diving toward the moon's surface. Plasma bolts streaked past him, missing by inches. He flew between defensive towers, using the fortress's own structures as cover. The computer screamed warnings about collision, but Deho ignored it. He knew what his ship could do. A missile locked onto him. He dove into a canyon on the moon's surface, the walls barely wider than his ship. The missile followed but couldn't maneuver as well. It clipped the canyon wall and exploded behind him. 3 more missiles launched. Deho pulled up hard, racing along the moon's surface. He dropped countermeasures, small devices that confused targeting systems. 2 missiles veered off. The third kept coming at the last second. Deho killed his engines and let the ship fall. The missile overshot him, confused by the sudden loss of heat signature. He restarted the engines and blasted away, putting the moon between him and the fortress. Once he was clear, he jumped to light speed. His hands were shaking again. His heart pounded. But he was alive, and he had the information he needed. Back in deep space, Deho analyzed what he'd learned. P1's command center was deep underground, accessible only through a single elevator shaft. The elevator required biometric identification from authorized personnel. Kreln personally checked everyone who entered. Most hunters would see this as impossible. But Deho saw an opportunity. The elevator was the only way in, which meant it was also the only way out. If he could control that elevator, he could control access to G1, but first, he needed to deal with Kreln. The security chief was too dangerous to leave active. Deho studied everything he could find about Kreln's species, the Draken. They were warriors bred for combat over thousands of generations. Stronger than humans, faster than humans, with natural armor that could turn aside blades, but they had weaknesses. Every species did. Deho just had to find them. He spent another day preparing, building specific weapons, mixing chemicals, planning every step. Other hunters relied on improvisation. Deho believed in preparation. If you prepared well enough, you didn't need luck. On the 5th day, he was ready. He returned to the fortress moon, but this time he didn't try to hide. He approached openly, broadcasting a simple message. "I'm here for Park Jiwan. Send out Kreln." The base went into full alert. Automated weapons targeted his ship, but he landed anyway, in an open area far from the main entrance. He stepped out wearing light armor and carrying weapons designed for this specific fight. Kreln came to meet him. The Draken stood 8 feet tall, covered in scales that looked like polished steel. He carried a massive blade that could cut through most materials. His eyes were intelligent and curious. "You are the human bounty hunter," Kreln said. "The one they call the Reaper." "I have heard stories. They say you never fail." "The stories are true," Deho replied. "Then you are here to die. I have killed 100 warriors. You are just a soft human." "Maybe," Deho said. "But I only need to kill one." Kreln moved like lightning. His blade swung in an arc that would have split Deho in half. But Deho had already rolled aside, the blade cutting through empty air where he'd been standing. He came up firing small projectiles that bounced harmlessly off Kreln's armor. The Draken laughed. "You think bullets can hurt me? I am armored by nature, human. You cannot win." Deho didn't respond. He just kept moving, firing, staying just out of reach. Kreln chased him, getting angrier with each miss. That was the plan. Make him angry. Make him careless. The Draken warrior lunged forward, covering 20 feet in a single jump. His blade came down like a hammer. Deho barely dodged, feeling the wind from the strike. But as he moved, he threw a small device at Kreln's feet. Exploded with a bright flash in a chemical cloud. Kreln stumbled back, his eyes watering. The chemical was designed specifically for Draken biology, irritating their sensitive vision. It wouldn't last long, but it didn't need to. Deho moved in close, too close for the blade to be useful. He jammed a small injector against a soft spot between Kreln's armor plates, right where the neck met the shoulder. The injector hissed, delivering a powerful tranquilizer. Krelm roared and backhanded Deho, sending him flying 10 feet. The human hit the ground hard, feeling ribs crack. But the tranquilizer was already working. Krelm took 2 steps and collapsed unconscious. Deho lay on the ground for a moment, breathing carefully. His ribs hurt badly. Probably broken. He'd have to deal with that later. Right now, he needed to move. Guards were coming. He could hear them. He activated the jammers he'd planted earlier. For 90 seconds, their communications would be chaos. 90 seconds to get inside. He ran to the main entrance, using Krelm's biometric data from a scanner he'd pressed against the Draken's hand. The door opened. He was inside. The elevator shaft was exactly where his intelligence said it would be. He used Krelm's biometrics again. The elevator descended, taking him deep underground. His ribs screamed with every breath, but he ignored the pain. Humans were good at ignoring pain. When they had to be, the elevator doors opened into a command center filled with computers and communication equipment. Rebels worked at various stations. And in the center, studying a holographic map, stood Park Ji-won. She was smaller than her pictures suggested, maybe 5'5", but her presence filled the room. When she turned to look at him, her eyes were sharp and calculating. "Kang Deho," she said calmly. "The famous bounty hunter. I wondered when you'd arrive." Deho raised his weapon. "I'm here to take you in. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." Ji-won smiled. "You're human. Like me. Like everyone in this room? And you're hunting your own people for credits?" "I'm hunting criminals. Your rebellion has been declared illegal by the Galactic Commerce Guild. The Guild declared it illegal because we're fighting against slavery," Ji-won said. She walked toward him slowly, unafraid of his weapon. "Do you know what the Guild does to human colonies? They offer loans we can't refuse, then charge interest we can't pay. When we default, they take everything. Our resources, our freedom, our lives." "I know what they do," Deho said quietly. "Then why are you helping them?" "Because the galaxy doesn't care about humanity. We're too small, too weak, too new. If we fight the Guild directly, they'll crush us. I'm trying to save what I can." Ji-won stopped a few feet away from him. "By hunting me? By stopping the one group that's actually making the Guild hurt?" Before Deho could answer, alarms blared. The jammers had stopped working. The fortress was regaining control of its systems. And more importantly, someone had noticed what was happening. "Your rebels are coming to rescue you," Deho said. "Probably. But that's not what you should worry about." Ji-won pointed at one of her computer screens. "That's what you should worry about." Deho looked. The screen showed a message from Vorath, the crime lord who'd hired him. But it wasn't a message of support. It was an order to the fortress guards. Kill both the bounty hunter and the rebel leader. No survivors. "You've been set up," Ji-won said. "Vorath never intended to pay you. He wanted us both dead." Deho felt cold anger settle in his stomach. He'd suspected something like this might happen. In his line of work, betrayal was common. But seeing it confirmed still hurt. Explosions rocked the command center. The rebels were fighting back, trying to reach their leader. But Vorath's forces were attacking too, elite mercenaries hired specifically for this job. Ji-won looked at Deho. "We can fight each other and both die. Or we can work together and maybe survive. Your choice." Deho lowered his weapon. "How do we get out?" "There's an emergency tunnel, but it's on the other side of the base. We'll have to fight through both my rebels and Vorath's mercenaries. Then we'd better move." They ran through corridors filled with smoke and gunfire. Ji-won's rebels were confused, not sure whether to protect their leader or capture the bounty hunter. Deho solved that problem by shooting at the mercenaries. Making it clear whose side he was on, a massive alien blocked their path. Covered in cybernetic enhancements and carrying a weapon that looked like a small cannon, Deho pushed Ji-won aside and dove as the cannon fired. Turning a wall into molten slag. He came up firing, targeting the cybernetics. Sparks flew. The alien stumbled. Jiwan appeared beside him with a pistol of her own, and together they brought the mercenary down. "You're good at this," Jiwan said. "So are you." They kept moving. More rebels joined them, forming a protective circle around Jiwan. Deho found himself fighting alongside people he'd planned to help capture. It felt strange, but it also felt right. The emergency tunnel was hidden behind a false wall in a storage room. They blasted through it and ran into darkness, following glow lights that Jiwan activated. Behind them, explosions continued as the fortress tore itself apart. The tunnel led to a hidden landing pad where a small ship waited. It was cramped and old, but it had engines. They piled in, rebels and bounty hunter together as the ship lifted off. Deho saw the fortress moon below. Parts of it were on fire. Vorith's mercenaries were thorough in their destruction. Anyone still inside was probably dead. How many did we lose? Jiwan asked one of her rebels. "At least 50, came the grim reply. "Maybe more." Jiwan closed her eyes, pain crossing her face. These were her people, her responsibility. Deho understood that feeling. He'd lost people too. The ship jumped to light speed, escaping the system. In the cargo hold, converted to a temporary medical bay, a rebel doctor looked at Deho's ribs. "Too broken," the doctor said. "You need rest." "I'll rest when I'm dead," Deho replied. Jiwan sat down next to him. "Why did you help us?" "You could have taken me and run." "Because Vorith tried to kill me," Deho said simply. "I don't like being used? Is that the only reason?" Deho was quiet for a moment. "My wife and daughter died because the guild wouldn't help them. I've been taking bounties to fund human colonies, trying to help people survive. But you're right. It's not enough. The guild needs to be stopped, not worked around. Then help us stop them. We have evidence of their crimes: corruption, slavery, murder, enough to bring them down if we can get it to the Galactic Council. The Council won't care. Humans don't matter to them. Then we'll make them care." Outside the ship, stars streaked past. Somewhere behind them, Vorith was probably furious. The crime lord had lost the fortress moon and failed to kill his targets. He would send more hunters, more mercenaries, more killers, but for the first time in years, Deho felt something like hope. Not because he thought they could win. The odds were still terrible. The guild was too powerful, too entrenched. But Jiwan was fighting anyway. Her rebels were fighting anyway. Maybe that was what humanity needed. Not caution, not careful survival, but the willingness to fight even when losing was certain. "There's something else," Jiwan said. She pulled up a holographic image. It showed a man in guild military uniform. Troy Minho, former human soldier. Now working for the guild, he's their top enforcer for dealing with human problems. Deho recognized the face. "I knew him. We served together in Earth's first contact military. He's been sent to hunt us. Vorith must have hired him as backup." "Minho is good?" "Very good. We trained together. Can you beat him?" Deho looked at the image of his former friend. They'd shared meals together, fought together, dreamed of a better future for humanity together. And now Minho had sold out to the same system that oppressed their people. "I don't know," Deho admitted. "But I guess we'll find out." The ship drifted in an asteroid field, hiding among the rocks while repairs were made. Deho sat alone in the cargo bay, running maintenance on his weapons. His ribs were wrapped tight, healing slowly. The pain was manageable if he didn't move too quickly. G1 found him there. She held a datapad and looked troubled. "I need to show you something," she said. "I hacked into your ship's computer while you were unconscious after the escape. I'm sorry. I needed to know who I was dealing with." Deho didn't look up from his weapon. "What did you find?" "Everything. Every bounty you've collected for 5 years. Every credit you've earned." She sat down across from him. "You're the Reaper. The most successful bounty hunter in the galaxy. The one every criminal fears, yes. But that's not all I found. You've been sending money to human colonies anonymously, medical supplies, food, engineering equipment. You've probably saved thousands of lives. Daeho finally looked at her. Don't make me into a hero. I'm not. Then what are you? A survivor. The galaxy doesn't care about humans. We're newcomers, primitives with stolen technology. When my wife and daughter died, I learned that lesson. Nobody was going to save us. So I became someone who could. Kiwan pulled up images on her datapad. These colonies you've helped. Do they know who's funding them? No, and they never will. Why? Because hope is dangerous. If they knew a single human was making that much difference, they'd start depending on it. They'd stop fighting for themselves. I give them resources, but they have to build their own future. That's a lonely way to live. Daeho smiled without humor. Yes, it is. Before Jiwan could respond, alarms blared. Someone had found them. Ships were approaching fast, military-grade vessels with guild markings. Everyone rushed to the bridge. The pilot, a young rebel named Teeman, pointed at the sensor screen. 3 ships. Heavy weapons. They're hailing us. Put it through, Jiwan ordered. A face appeared on the screen. Choi Minho looked exactly as Daeho remembered, except his eyes were colder now. He wore an expensive guild uniform and smiled like a predator. Daeho, it's been a long time. Minho, I heard you were working for the guild now. Working for them? I'm thriving with them. They appreciate talent. They reward success. Unlike the rebellion, which offers nothing but suffering and death, they're enslaving our people. They're giving our people structure, purpose. The strong survive. The weak don't. That's nature. That's fair. Daeho felt anger burn in his chest. You used to believe in something better. I used to be naive. Then I woke up. Humanity will never be respected in this galaxy. We're too weak, too soft. Our only choice is to serve those stronger than us and hope for scraps, or we could fight. Minho laughed. Fight with what? Earth has one functioning military fleet. We're outnumbered 1,000,000 to 1. Fighting is suicide, maybe, but it's better than slavery. We'll see. I'm giving you one chance, Daeho, for old time's sake. Surrender Part G1 and I'll let you go. Keep the bounty if you want. I don't care about credits. I care about my reputation. And if I refuse, then I'll destroy your ship and collect the bounty myself. Your choice. The screen went dark. G1 looked at Daeho. Will he really do it? Yes, Minho doesn't make empty threats. Can we outrun them? Teeman shook his head. Our ship is damaged. They're faster and better armed. We can't win a direct fight. Daeho thought quickly. 3 guild ships against 1 damaged rebel vessel. In any normal scenario, this would be over in minutes. But Minho knew how Daeho thought. He'd be expecting tricks, traps, clever escapes, which meant Daeho needed to do something Minho wouldn't expect. Open a channel, Daeho said, when Minho's face appeared again. Daeho spoke before the other man could. You want to fight? Fine, but not here. Meet me on that asteroid. He pointed to a large rock nearby. Just you and me, hand to hand. Winner takes everything. Minho raised an eyebrow. You think I'll agree to that? You're wearing a guild uniform now, but you're still a soldier. Still a warrior. You'll agree because you want to prove you're better than me. You always did. Silence. Then Minho smiled. 1 hour. Don't be late. The asteroid was mostly iron with a thin atmosphere that humans could breathe for a short time. Daeho landed first, wearing light armor and carrying only a knife. No guns, no tricks. Just skill against skill. Minho arrived exactly on time. He wore similar armor and carried a knife of his own. They walked toward each other across the barren surface, boots crunching on rust-colored rock. I trained you, Minho said. I know every move you know. Every technique. Every strategy. I know, Daeho replied. That's why this will be interesting. They circled each other slowly. 2 humans, trained by the same instructors, shaped by the same wars. But they'd taken different paths. Minho had chosen comfort and security. Deho had chosen survival and sacrifice. Ho attacked first, knife flashing in a pattern Deho recognized. It was an old Earth martial art, deadly efficient. Deho blocked and countered, their knives meeting with sharp clangs. They moved like dancers, each knowing what the other would do. Before they did it, block, parry, thrust, dodge, neither could gain an advantage because they were too evenly matched. "You can't beat me," Minho said between attacks. "We're equals." "Wrong," Deho replied. "We were equals. But I fought for 5 years against every species in the galaxy. I've learned their techniques. Adapted them. You've been sitting in guild headquarters growing soft." "Soft?" Minho laughed and attacked with renewed fury, but Deho was ready. He used a move he'd learned from a Krellian warrior, a low sweep that Minho didn't expect because it wasn't human. Minho stumbled. Deho followed up with a Draken striking technique, fast and precise. His knife found the gap in Minho's armor, sliding between the plates to press against flesh. "Not cutting." "Not yet." Just there, Minho froze. "You've changed." "I had to." "The galaxy doesn't respect humans who fight like humans." "So I learned to fight like everyone else." "Then I learned to fight better." "So kill me then. Prove how much better you are." Deho pulled the knife back. "No, why not?" "Because you're human. And there are too few of us already." He stepped away. "Go back to the guild, tell them you failed. Tell them the rebellion is too dangerous to fight. Tell them whatever you want. But leave us alone." Minho stood slowly, touching the spot where the knife had been. A single drop of blood stained his armor. He could have died. They both knew it. "You're making a mistake," Minho said. "The rebellion will fail. Juwan will die. And you'll die with her." "Maybe, but I'll die fighting for something that matters." "What will you die for?" Minho didn't answer. He walked back to his ship without another word. The 3 guild vessels departed, jumping to light speed and leaving the rebels behind. Back on the rebel ship, Jiwan was waiting. "Why did you let him go?" "Because killing him wouldn't change anything. The guild would just send someone else. But maybe seeing me beat him will make him think. Make him question his choices. You think he'll switch sides?" "No, Minho is too proud for that. But he might hesitate next time. And hesitation creates opportunities." Jiwan pulled up the datapad again, showing the evidence she'd collected. "We need to get this to the Galactic Council. It proves the guild is breaking every trade law, every Centra rights agreement. If the council sees this, they'll have to act. The council won't care about humans. Then we make them care. We broadcast this evidence everywhere. Every news network. Every information hub. We make it impossible to ignore." Deho looked at the data. It was damning. Proof of slavery, murder, corruption on a scale that touched every sector. If this got out, the guild would fall, but they'd also fight back with everything they had. "This is it then," Deho said. "All or nothing, yes." He thought about his wife and daughter, about the colonies he'd secretly funded, about every human struggling to survive in a galaxy that didn't care. Maybe Jiwan was right. Maybe careful survival wasn't enough anymore. "All right," he said. "But we'll need help. A ship fast enough to reach the Council homeworld. Protection against guild forces. And a way to broadcast simultaneously to every system." Uwan smiled. "I know someone who might help. But you're not going to like it. Why?" "Because they're pirates." The pirate base was hidden inside a dying star's gravity well, a place where most ships couldn't safely navigate. But Juwan's contacts knew the route, and they arrived without incident. The pirates were a mixed group of species, all outcasts and criminals. Their leader was a human woman named Kim Yuna, which surprised Deho. Humans were rare in the pirate world. Yuna was tall and heavily scarred, with cybernetic enhancements running down her left arm. She studied Daho with interest when they met in her command center. "So you're the Reaper," she said. "I've been following your career. You've done more for humanity than most governments. You know about the colonies I've funded?" Deho asked. I know everything that happens in my sector. Those medical supplies that saved the Harmony colony? I'm the one who delivered them. You paid, I transported. We've been working together for 3 years without knowing it. Daeho felt something like relief. At least some of his money had gone to the right places. Jiwan says you need help reaching the Council homeworld, Yuna continued. That's deep in guild space. Suicide mission. Yes, Jiwan agreed. But if we succeed, we can end the guild's control over human colonies, forever. Yuna thought about this. What's in it for me? Nothing. Except the satisfaction of hurting the guild. I like hurting the guild. They've killed too many of my crew over the years. Yuna grinned. I'm in. But we'll need more than just my ships. We'll need an army. Over the next 2 days, they gathered allies. Pirates who hated the guild, rebels from other species who'd been oppressed. Independent traders who'd been cheated. Even a few guild deserters who'd grown disgusted with the corruption. It wasn't a proper military force. It was a collection of misfits and outcasts. But they were motivated and they were angry. The plan was complex. Yuna's fastest ship would carry Daeho and Jiwan to the Council homeworld. They would present the evidence in person, broadcasting it simultaneously to every news network in the galaxy. The rest of the fleet would create diversions, keeping guild forces busy. It's a terrible plan, Daeho said during the final briefing. You have a better one? Yuna asked. No, let's do it. They jumped to light speed, heading toward the Council homeworld. Behind them, the diversionary fleet split up, attacking guild facilities across 3 sectors. It was chaos, exactly what they needed, but the guild wasn't stupid. They knew something was happening. Security around the Council homeworld tripled. Warships patrolled the system. Getting through would be nearly impossible. We need a distraction, Jiwan said. I have one, Yuna replied. She opened a communication channel. Teeman, you're up. The young rebel pilot appeared on screen from another ship. Ready when you are. Teeman's ship jumped into the system first, broadcasting fake distress signals. Guild ships moved to investigate. While they were distracted, Yuna's ship slipped through the outer defenses using stealth technology. They made it to the planet's orbit. But landing was another problem. The council building was in the capital city, protected by shields and anti-aircraft weapons. We'll have to go in hard, Yuna said. Hold on. The ship dove into the atmosphere at an angle that made Daeho's stomach flip. Alarm screamed. Guild fighters appeared behind them, firing. Yuna dodged and weaved, her piloting skills impressive even by human standards. They crashed more than landed. The ship tearing through a market square before sliding to a stop near the council building. Daeho kicked open the hatch, grabbed Jiwan and ran. Behind them, the ship exploded as guild fighters destroyed it. Yuna! Jiwan shouted. I'm fine, Yuna's voice came through their communicators. I ejected before impact. Meet you inside. Guild soldiers were everywhere, but so were council security forces. The 2 groups were fighting each other, confused about who was attacking what. Daeho and Jiwan used the chaos to reach the council building's entrance. Inside, council members from dozens of species were evacuating. Daeho fired his weapon into the air, getting their attention. We have evidence of guild crimes, he shouted. Slavery, murder, corruption, you need to see this. A tall alien with multiple arms stepped forward. This was Council Speaker Vexstar, one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. I know who you are, bounty hunter. You're wanted by the guild. Why should we listen to you? Because what the guild is doing to humans, they'll eventually do to everyone else, Jiwan said. She held up a data chip. This contains proof. Let us broadcast it. Let the galaxy decide. Vexstar considered this. Outside, explosions continued as the battle intensified. Finally, the speaker nodded. Show us. They plugged the chip into the council's main communication system. Immediately, screens across the galaxy lit up with evidence. Documents showing how the guild had deliberately bankrupted human colonies. Video of guild enforcers executing workers who couldn't pay debts. Financial records proving decades of systematic exploitation. It wasn't just humans. The evidence showed the guild doing the same thing to dozens of species, always carefully, always hidden. But G1 had found it all. The galaxy watched in silence as the truth emerged. Then the doors burst open. Vorath entered with an army of mercenaries. The crime lord looked furious. "You've destroyed everything I built," Vorath growled. "I will kill you personally." "Get in line," a voice said from behind him. Choi Minho walked in, but he wasn't alone. He brought guild military forces, proper soldiers with advanced weapons. They surrounded Vorath's mercenaries. "You're under arrest," Minho told Vorath. "The guild wants you alive to answer questions about your unauthorized operations." Vorath laughed. "You think the guild will protect you? They're falling apart. That evidence just destroyed them." "Maybe," Minho agreed. "But I'm still doing my job." He turned to Deho. "You won. The evidence is out. The galaxy knows the truth. But you understand what happens now? The guild will collapse. Millions depend on their trade networks. There will be chaos, starvation, war." "Better than slavery," Deho replied. "Is it? You just destroyed the system without building anything to replace it." "People will die." Jiwan stepped forward. "Then we'll build something better. The council can take over guild operations, redistribute resources fairly. It won't be perfect, but it will be honest." Minho holstered his weapon. "You're very idealistic. Both of you," he looked at Deho. "I could arrest you right now. Collect the bounty. But you won't," Deho said. "No, because you were right on that asteroid? There are too few humans in this galaxy. We can't afford to fight each other anymore." Minho gestured to his soldiers. "Stand down. Let them go." The guild soldiers looked confused but obeyed. Vorath's mercenaries, seeing they were outnumbered, surrendered. The crime lord screamed threats as he was dragged away. Yuna appeared, limping slightly but grinning. "Did we win?" "Sort of," Deho said. The council speaker approached them. "What you've done today will change the galaxy. The guild will be dissolved. Their assets will be redistributed. But there must be accountability. Many will demand justice for the crimes revealed." "We'll cooperate fully," Jiwan said. "We have nothing to hide. And you, bounty hunter?" Vexstar looked at Deho. "Will you face justice for your crimes? You've killed many beings over the years." "Every bounty I took was legal at the time," Deho replied. "But yes, I'll face whatever justice you decide. As long as the human colonies are protected." The speaker considered this. "The council will establish a committee to investigate guild crimes and determine appropriate responses. You will both serve as witnesses. In the meantime, you're free to go." Outside the council building, crowds had gathered. Some were celebrating. Others were angry. The galaxy was changing, and not everyone was happy about it. Daho, Jiwan, and Yuna walked through the crowd together. Nobody tried to stop them. They were just 3 humans in a galaxy of trillions. "What now?" Yuna asked. "Now we rebuild," Jiwan said. "The guild is gone, but the problems remain. Human colonies still need help. Workers still need protection. We've won a battle, not the war." "I'm starting a security company," Deho said. "Training humans to protect themselves. No more depending on alien systems or bounty hunters. We'll be our own guardians." "I like it," Yuna said. "I'll help. My crews need legitimate work anyway." They reached a docking bay where a new ship waited, purchased with Deho's bounty earnings. It wasn't fancy, but it was functional. A ship for new beginnings. Minho appeared one last time. "I'm resigning from the guild, or what's left of it. I don't know what I'll do next." "Join us," Jiwan offered. "Help train the defense forces." "You're a good soldier?" "We need good soldiers." Minho hesitated. "I've done terrible things for the guild." "We've all done terrible things to survive," Deho said. "What matters is what we do next." After a moment, Minho nodded. "All right. I'm in." The 4 humans boarded the ship together. As they lifted off, Deho looked back at the council homeworld. Somewhere down there, the galaxy was rewriting its laws, restructuring its economy, trying to fix decades of corruption. It would take time, maybe generations. But it had started. You know what's funny? Una said as they jumped to light speed. The galaxy spent centuries thinking humans were weak, too soft, too primitive. And maybe we are. But we're also stubborn. We don't give up. That's what makes us dangerous, Jawan agreed. Deho leaned back in his chair, feeling his ribs ache. The pain was a reminder that he was alive, that he'd survived another impossible mission, that somehow, against all odds, humanity had,